How does it look? Who are the other messengers? What are the visuals? And the communications director is very different in that regard because it's a sort of a visionary, not necessarily somebody who goes on TV, maybe, maybe not, traditionally. But the press secretary, you see what that individual does each day.
Those are both huge jobs. They're both
huge jobs, and good for Sean Spicer. You know, he's been willing to take them both on. But these are very big jobs, and he has, I think he's doing an excellent job, frankly, as both. But if we can get additional help for communications, I think that would alleviate some of the idea that this man is doing two jobs. But he's got the full faith and confidence of the president. These reports are completely false. I've talked to the president, I've talked to Sean Spicer, and they're just false.
Well, first off, there's two jobs there. You want they got to be filled by two different people.
That's right.
And the word is that you offer the communication director job to a number of people, and they've all said no. How true is that?
That is completely false also. I know people who are interested in the job, actually, as I stand here. They've reached out to us. And I think that we'll be either interviewing or deciding what to do in that regard. But look, I think communications is important to any president of the United States. That's an obvious point. But to this president, it's exceptionally important because he's a TV expert himself. He had the #1 show on NBC when The Apprentice came out. I've been in the room with him many times when he's about to do a TV hit or record something at length. And he knows right away the camera angles, the visuals. I mean, that's who he is.
I remember walking into the locker room at a rundown gym in Scranton, and the first thing he did is adjust my lights. And he goes, "I'm going to make you look better, too. Just give me a second." He physically picked up the lights and worked with them, so I get it. Having said that, in the big picture, I did hear that he does watch a lot of shows. We know that. I did hear he was upset by the way Sean Spicer was portrayed on SNL, and the fact that he didn't text afterwards shows he's upset by it.
Well, the president is very protective of us, and we've been a small team all along in the campaign and through the RNC, and he ends up being very protective of us. Those trying to divide and conquer us, it actually has the opposite effect, where we get a little bit tighter and closer, if that's even possible. And so there's that. Secondly, he thinks that people are treated unfairly. By and large, and he just wants to get his message out in a way that's fair and full and complete.
He's loyal.
He's exceptionally loyal, and we are exceptionally loyal to him. It's why we're here. I mean, look, we're here, whether it's Sean, me, Ryan's, others, we're here to serve the president, and the president is here to serve people.
Right, Kelly,
and it's very linear.
He tweeted this morning, but before we read the tweet, I just want to tell the folks at home a little background on this. You have Senator Richard Blumenthal, and he was having a private conversation with Judge Neil Gorsuch, and he says that Neil Gorsuch told him that he was disheartened by the president's comments about the judges.
And demoralized, and then Richard Blumenthal described it as Trump's abhorrent comments. And then abhorrent and demoralizing and disheartening got part of the mix, but in fact, Mr. Gorsuch never mentioned abhorrent. And so your boss today tweeted
Exactly, and this is what he tweeted out. He said, Senator Richard Blumenthal, who never fought in Vietnam when he said for years that he had, major lie, now misrepresents what Judge Gorsuch told him. So what is he saying there at the White House about this?
Well, he's saying that the judge has been misrepresented and some of his comments have been distorted, but also probably that you don't reveal a private conversation, even if it means you could be on cable TV 24/7. And I think this is the president's way of reminding everybody, in his view anyway, that Senator Blumenthal has had a credibility problem of his own. We know that gets glossed over. I remember a couple of years ago when he was running for re-election. He's done that many times. He's been a lifelong politician, frankly, and a very wealthy man, Senator Blumenthal. He is somebody who said he fought in Vietnam, and he meant to say he was enlisted during Vietnam. So it's just a matter of a word. That happens to some of us sometimes, but in the case of Senator Blumenthal, it didn't get that much coverage. So perhaps the president is trying to maybe make everybody see the credibility of Senator Blumenthal as well as he's out there representing the judge's conversation. But look, I go back to one other thing. Two things. One is, remember during the confirmation hearings for other still unconfirmed nominees, that the president said at some point that he's very comfortable with his nominees expressing their own points of view. He said that when these folks were being grilled by the Democratic senators who ended up voting against them anyway, for no good reason except politics. He said, I want them to express their own independent views. So the president is very comfortable with that. Number two, what about when President Obama tried to shame the Supreme Court in front of the world at the State of the Union address after the Citizens United decision. You had Justice Alito literally shaking his head because it was just such a shocking thing to have a sitting president with the Supreme Court right in front of him, scolding them for an opinion that they talk about not having an independent judiciary, talk about interfering in different branches of government. But this is a different standard because it's a different standard applied to us in the Trump administration. But I'm glad that he said that, and we have full faith and confidence in Judge Gorsuch. We know his academic credentials, his judicial qualifications. Of course not. The president is very fully confident in the nominee. By the way, those Democrats preening around about what Judge Gorsuch said, it really is beside the point. All they care about is who he is on Roe versus Wade. So I'm not even sure why they're raising this.
Just real quick before we talk about Ivanka and what she's going through now, I want to just ask you, did the president pick up the phone or did the judge pick up the phone, or did they speak yesterday after Senator Blumenthal came out with his comments?
I'm not going to comment on that. I could just tell you that the president is fully confident in Judge Gorsuch. And he's fully confident. I mean, look at this. Look at this new polling data from Morning Consult. This is pretty cool. Look at on the blue is how much people support what the president is doing.
The travel
Keystone XL, Affordable Care Act, sanctuary cities, 7 predominant countries from entering the U.S. I mean, this is what matters the most because America is paying attention to the way he's communicating and connecting with them on the substance.
Sure.
So
go to Politico. It's a Politico Morning Consult poll if you want to get the details on that.
And a Quinnipiac poll shows that 91% of Republicans love Donald Trump.
They do. Basically because he keeps his promises. Everybody's just shocked that a businessman is about accountability and deliver. But you asked about Ivanka. I visited with her yesterday. You know, this is a very successful businesswoman twice. Obviously, she's stepped away from it now, but in the past she's helped to run her family's real estate empire. And on the side, she developed another fully unbelievably entrepreneurial, wildly successful business that bears her name. And I think she's gone from 800 stores to 1,000 stores or 1,000 places where you can buy. You can certainly buy her goods online. And she's just at a very good place. She's an incredibly confident, creative, talented woman who also supports her father's presidency and realizes that there are bigger issues that he's going to tackle. And if she decides, and it works for her family, she comes inside the White House here, she knows people like Dina Palamy will be working with her to help on women empowerment, women and girls. I do find it ironic that you've got some executives all over the internet bragging about what they've done to her and her line, and yet they're using the most prominent woman in Donald Trump's, most prominent, she's his daughter, and they're using her, who's been a champion for women empowerment, women in the workplace, to get to him. So I think people can see through that.